A lot of people wonder, when did Marvel Comics become shit? Well, I was on the front lines of the battle zone and I have first-hand experience of the rot within. And a lot of people, they point to the same name, Alex Alfonso, and when he became editor-in-chief of Marvel, and they are absolutely right. Here is what might be patient zero. This is the Incredible Hulk #1 from 2011. This was pretty much the early days of Alfonso's reign of terror, and it was only downhill from here. He had so many toxic mandates and ideas about the customer. The insane social justice elements, they became more apparent 2 or 3 years into his tenure, but it was really toxic from the word go. He started by doing something to trick people, because look, he got Marc Stanley Lee as the artist on Incredible Hulk, and look, he got Joey Mental as the artist on Spider-Man. Both of these are great artists, they are industry legends, and both of these lasted 2 or 3 issues on the comics. And obviously they were too expensive, so they got dropped. And being tight with money, that is a constant thing with Alfonso's run. I've talked about his disgusting idea to replace affordable trade paperbacks, like the ones that cost $10 or $15, with bigger trade paperbacks that cost 3 times as much, just because they want to make more profit. This comic is shit. I did that Excalibur where the writing was okay and everything else was bad. Well, this comic, it's the opposite. The art is amazing, but the writing and the story are terrible. The cover, this would be a great cover, but they even managed to mess this up, because there's this planet here in the background and it is doing some exploding. And the idea is that the Hulk did it because he is strong and he's like got the blood on his hands and stuff. But they have put the logo over the planet. Did they not understand that it was part of the image? It's not some background detail, it's actually part of the image. This comic is awful, and I'm going to focus on some of the advertisements, the house ads, because they all are quite evident of my claim that this is the beginning of the end. They paint a clear picture of some of the terrible directions the company will go in with their franchises. Here we have got the Excellent Men, and this really is the beginning of their demise. This is when they made Cyclist into a child-killing mutant Nazi. They split him and Emma Frosty's up, which a lot of people hate that relationship, but a lot of people also really love it. And they had spent the 5 years before this trying to sell that relationship, building it up to be taken seriously. Then we have got Wolfman. The entire Excellent Men franchise descended into being Wolfman fan fiction, where the character, who is famously a killing machine, he was transformed into the moral centre of the team. He was the voice of reason. He was made into a cuddly teacher who does no wrong. Steelman, who isn't even in the advert, he had been a pacifist for years, but they decided to make him into a dark, brooding murderer. They give him Juggernaut's powers. Mr. Magnet, he was on the team, and he was the soulful saint who never meant to hurt anyone. Seaman, he was on the team for some reason. Great art again, though Yellow Flash, he would hate this. He hates that artist. Speaking of art though, Marc Stanley Lee is brilliant. I think he is probably my favouriteest of all the artists. And normally I would really hate it when an artist abuses a double splash page like this. But this is Marc Stanley Lee, and anything to rob us of another page of this story is good. I'm not really talking about the story yet because there isn't really much of one. It is a lot of padding for the big end twist that is meant to grab you by the bollards. There though, you can see Axel Alonso, editor-in-chief. So I was not lying about him being editor-in-chief. The Hulk, he is living underground as a barbarian. You can get toys of this design for some reason. I imagine because of Marc Stanley Lee, not because of this story. Advert here for an Excellent Men game. Wasn't very good. There were good ideas in it, but the whole play as 3 preset original characters, that was lame. People want to play as Cyclist or Wolfman. This was, sadly, the last Excellent Men game. So the Hulk, he is ruling over all these subterranean monster people. Advert there for a Spider-Man game. Remember when Marvel used to put out video games? So the Hulk, he's ruling over all these people, and the art is great. And the writing isn't bad yet, it's just wasting time. The whole first issue is a practice in wasting time. There's no going on. It does what a lot of first issues do nowadays. They just waste 20 pages for the final 2 or 3 pages to be what grabs you by the jaffas. Telly shows do that as well, actually. Like the first episode of telly shows now, narratively, that would be like the first 5 minutes of a show 10 years ago. Like, imagine if Lost had spent the first episode entirely on the plane, and it only crashed in the last few minutes as a twist. We get some robot things for the Hulk to fight, and it's drawn by Marc Stanley Lee, so it looks alright. The meek inherit nothing. Au le contraire, Mr. Advert Man. The meek inherit Marvel Comics. So the Hulk, he smashes stuff, and this is what you want from an Hulk comic. A lot of the time, writers, they are not willing to write for the character they are given. They want to reinvent it, and it's really, really apparent for the Hulk. Ever since David Peters, probably, every writer just wants to revamp the Hulk, give him a new setup, or more likely, egotistically, they want to put their stamp on the character forever and ever. Like they'll go, oh, let's make the Hulk into a spy. Oh, let's make the Hulk into a god. Oh, let's make the Hulk into a goat. And this one tries the same thing of reinventing the wheel. Then in some of that armour, we have got a pretty woman. Marc Stanley Lee has still got it. But to continue on with my point, most people who buy the Hulk, who want to read it every month, they are looking for one of 2 things. Firstly, they want a Jekyll and Hyde story with David Banner and the Hulk. And secondly, they just want to see this big green muscle man smash things up. And people really criticise the Jeff Nobles run that came before this one, the one with the Red Hulk, but at least that, his run did meet one of them criterias. There was smashing, there was fighting. It was bad, didn't get us wrong, but it was better than this. And here we are getting to the twist. We're on an island now, and look, there's a little monkey, ain't that cute? And there's all these horrible mutated animals, and this is the lab where they were created in, and there's an evil geneticist who is operating on them and experimenting on them and like grafting them together and stuff. But who is this unethical scientist that is creating these monsters? It's only David Banner. He's now a mad scientist separated from the Hulk, and he's performing horrific experiments on animals. He's torturing them, creating abominations of God, and he is the villain for this run. And the Hulk, he has to stop this madman. This is awful. This is a character-destroying idea. To make David Banner into a total villain. He's not misguided or confused or possessed or something. No, he's just suddenly a madman. He's a lunatic. And this is something that will be very, very prevalent in the Alfonso days. We'll have marquee heroes becoming absolute villains at the drop of a hat, and usually broken beyond repair, or they'll just be forgiven immediately and it'll be brushed under the rug. We've got David Banner here, we've got Cyclist over in The Excellent Men, Steelman as well, Captain America years later when he becomes a Nazi, Hank Gordon, he becomes an outright villain in the Avengers, loads and loads of them. Also, David Banner, his area of expertise is radiology, not genetics. So this doesn't work on even a hypothetical level of trying to use him for a remake of The Island of Dr. Moreau. Here we have got some better Hulk comics to read, a bunch of trade paperbacks you can get, and here is a much better concurrent Hulk book. This is Red Hulk by Jeff Parkman. This was a really good run, but people had just been soured on the Red Hulk by Jeff Nobles. He made him into a proper Mary Sue. This was more in line with actual Hulk comics. It was Red Hulk travelling the world, trying to atone for the wrongdoings he had committed, and smashing things. It was cancelled a few months after this though. Then we have got next issue there. Remember when comics used to actually advertise the next issue? Mark Stanley Lee, he is done halfway into that issue. He apparently broke his hand or something, but chances are they just couldn't afford him. Then we've got Red Hulk down here, much better book, and there's a helpful advert for the comic you just bought. Alfonso, he did a big cull really early on. He got rid of a lot of books that they weren't huge sellers, but they were fine, and they all sold more than comics sell nowadays. He got rid of Red Hulk, that sold about 30k. He got rid of Thunderbars, that sold about 40k. Extra Factors, that sold about 30k. He got rid of that. New Muties, another 30k. X32, I think that was 20k. And you'll notice a lot of them are Excellent Men books, and that was because Marvel didn't have the movie rights to them, and one of his first mandates was they wanted to push the Avengers as their top property. That's why they had a crossover called Avengers vs. Excellent Men, where the Excellent Men were completely trashed. We've got the advert for the Spider-Man on the back, Joey Mental. He does 3 issues, so didn't get your hopes up. This comic is dreadful, I reckon. I wasn't expecting to, but towards the end I started to get depressed. This is where it all began, where Marvel died. And when it comes to this issue, the whole idea, the new direction, I think is shit. It is dreadful. The writing is mostly pointless and just an excuse to draw it out, to try and sell it on the back of this big, shocking, terrible twist ending. The art is really good, so I cannot destroy Mark Stanley Lee art. But I would also say, other than the twist and the direction, the rest of the comic is just pointless. It's not worth destroying. It's a waste of paper and a waste of Mark Stanley Lee's talent. I didn't recommend this as anything more than a curiosity to see where the disaster of Alex Alfonso being editor-in-chief began. I'm going to rate this one 7 thumbs up.